Hello, my name is Tsukasa Akaishi from the Unification Principle Research Institute of the Family Federation for the Heavenly Japan. Today, I'd like to share my presentation called The Eras in the Komaba Group's View of the Principle. This is a table of contents of my presentation, Part 1 and Part 2. Let me start Part 1. Now, what is the Komaba Group? The Komaba Group is a spiritual group, non-principled group, led by Mr. Lee Sun-chol and Mrs. Komaba Kumiko, expelled on January 15, 2014, a Korean-Japanese couple from the 30,000 couple blessing. In 2018, a book called Foundation Day and Sunwa was published. This is one of the books of Komaba Group. In this book, Komaba Group made a following statement about the blessing ceremony. It says, in the Unification Church, we understand fallen nature comes from the original sin. If so, then the fallen nature must disappear once original sin is liquidated. If the lineage changed by participating in the blessing ceremony, original sin was liquidated, then the fallen nature must also have been removed. However, looking at the reality of the Unification Church, there is no evidence showing that the fallen nature has been removed or that it has noticeably decreased. Moreover, the Komaba Group lecturers say, can we truly say that we have been reborn through the blessing ceremony? True Father showed us proof that we have not yet been reborn. Our original sin has not been liquidated. We can understand that true rebirth, liquidation of original sin, has yet to be fulfilled through the blessing ceremony. So, according to the Komaba Group, the original sin of the blessed families has not been liquidated through the blessing ceremony. In order to understand the Komaba Group's unprincipled view of the original sin, we have to understand the Komaba Group's view of sin and the fallen nature. 1. Sin. What is sin? The Komaba Group's unprincipled view of sin. In some of the videos produced by the Komaba Group, their lecturers explain about what they believe sin to be. One of their lecturers says, fallen nature is inherent sin. So, according to the Komaba Group, the fallen nature is considered as inherent sin. And the lecturer continues saying, self-centered desires, this is where we relate to Satan. This is the reason it manifests itself as fallen acts as a result. Fallen nature and fallen acts, all of these constitute sin. The Komaba Group lecturers explain that the fallen nature, cause, and fallen acts, consequences, are inseparable. And his explanation continues. There are consequences because there are causes, and this can never be considered separately. The internal nature, 95%, and the external form, 5%. They are one thing. This is the Komaba Group's view of sin. Now, let's look at the view of sin, seen from the Divine Principle and Father's words. The Divine Principle defines sin as follows. Sin is a violation of heavenly law which is committed when a person forms a common base with Satan, thus setting a condition for give and take action with him. Sin can be classified into 4 kinds. The first is original sin. The second is hereditary sin. The The third is collective sin. The fourth is individual sin. In the divine principle, fallen nature is not even included in the definition of sin. Therefore, according to the divine principle, the fallen nature is neither a sin nor an inherent sin. The divine principle describes about sin as follows. The original sin may be thought of as the root of all sins, hereditary sin as the trunk, collective sin as the branches, and individual sin as the leaves. Nowhere does it say that fallen nature is the root of sin, or that fallen nature is the trunk or branches of sin. Then, what constitutes as a sin? The divine principle describes as follows. Whenever a person makes a condition for Satan to invade, it means that he has allowed himself to become Satan's object partner, thereby empowering Satan to act. This constitutes sin. However, the establishment of a reciprocal relationship with Satan does not necessarily mean that a give-and-take action will take place automatically. In order for a give-and-take action to take place, a common base must be established. Therefore, the divine principle defines sin as follows. Sin is a violation of heavenly law which is committed when a person forms a common base with Satan, thus setting a condition for give and take action with him. In order for give and receive action to take place, what kind of conditions are necessary? It is described in the book, The New Essentials of Unification Thought. The establishment of a reciprocal relationship does not necessarily mean that a give and receive action will take place. In order for a give and receive action to take place, common base must be established. This common base is a reciprocal relationship established centering on a common element or a common purpose. Thus, correctly speaking, once two parties are engaged in a reciprocal relationship and a common base is formed, give and receive action will take place. The divine principle describes as follows. Even Satan cannot perpetuate his evil activity unless he first finds an object partner with whom he can form a common base and engage in give and take action. Furthermore, if they form a common base and engage in give and take action with him, with God, then the power of principled love can revive their original nature. 2. Original sin. What is the original sin? Now, let's check the Komaba group's unprincipled view of original sin. The Komaba group's lecturers say that the fallen nature and the fallen acts can never be considered separately, and that these self-centered desires of the fallen nature, 95%, was the motivation for the fallen acts, 5%, that resulted in the spiritual and physical force. And the Komaba group's lecturers explain about the original sin as follows. Fallen nature and fallen acts, all of these things constitute original sin. The original sin is all of this, fallen nature and fallen acts together. Therefore, they insist that the fallen nature and fallen acts are inseparable. Now, let's look at the view of original sin, seen from the divine principle and through Father's words. What is the original sin? The divine principle defines it as follows. The first sin is the original sin. This sin originated with the spiritual and the physical fall of our first human ancestors It is ingrained in our lineage and is the root of all sins. Nowhere in the divine principle will you find statement that says that fallen nature and fallen acts, all of these things constitute original sin. In the divine principle, the motivation of the spiritual fall is not stated as sin. Let's verify about it. In the divine principle, it is described as follows. Lucifer, feeling as though he were receiving less love than he deserved, wanted to grasp the same central position in human society as he enjoyed in the angelic world as the channel of God's love. This was why he seduced Eve, and this was the motivation of the spiritual fall. According to the divine principle, sin was established only when Eve made a common base with Lucifer and had a give-and-take action, which led them to the spiritual fall by violating heavenly law. Therefore, the motivation of the spiritual fall should not be considered as a sin. Then what about the motivation of physical fall of Adam and Eve? Was it a sin? It was not a sin either. The motivation of physical fall is described in the divine principle as follows. Eve then seduced Adam with the hope that by uniting with him, her intended spouse, she could rid herself of the dread and once again stand before God. This was Eve's motivation, which led to the physical fall. However, when Eve seduced Adam, it was still undetermined whether he would fall or not. Indeed, in the divine principle, it is described as follows. What if Adam had reached perfection without having yielded to fallen Eve's temptations? The providence to restore Eve alone would have been relatively easy. Unfortunately, Adam started to form a common base and had give-and-take action with Eve, which led them to the physical fall. The divine principle states as follows. Adam responded and formed a common base with Eve, and they began give-and-take action with each other. The power of the unprincipled love brought them together in an illicit physical relationship of sexual love. Now, let's look at the primary characteristics of the fallen nature. The divine principle describes as follows. Adam, in turn, acquired the same inclinations when Eve, assuming the role of the archangel, bound him in blood ties through their sexual relationship. These proclivities have become the root cause of the fallen inclinations in all people. They are the primary characteristics of our fallen nature. In the divine principle, the primary characteristics of fallen nature is described as the proclivities which have become the root cause of the fallen inclinations in all people. However, the divine principle does not describe it as the original sin. The original sin and the fallen nature should be distinguished. All sin comes from original sin. There is no sin called the primary characteristics of the fallen nature before committing a sin. In conclusion, the fallen nature is not the original sin. 3. Redemption. What is the redemption? Now, let's check the Komaba group's unprincipled view of redemption. In the book Foundation Day and Sunwa, Komaba group describes how to liquidate your original sin and change your lineage. In this book, it is described as follows. The gift that true Father has bestowed on us to liquidate our original sin and change our lineage through the return of ownership is called the change of ownership. Moreover, in the book of Komaba Group states, the indemnity condition that needs to be established here is a condition of total indemnity to cleanse original sin. The Komaba Group lecturers are explaining that original sin should be cleansed or redeemed through the condition of total indemnity. Furthermore, Komaba Group lecturers explain as follows. It is called original sin, fallen nature and fallen acts. All of these fallen nature and fallen acts will need to be indemnified. We have to cleanse original sin. This is total indemnity. Therefore, you cannot do it unless you make this redemption. So this is called the providence of redemption. The Komaba Group lecturers are explaining that the original sin should be cleansed or redeemed through the condition of total indemnity. In one of the video, the group's lecturer explained the following regarding the cleansing of original sin under the topic of total indemnity and rebirth. According to the lecturer, the total indemnity is necessary for the liquidation or redemption of the original sin, and therefore 3 great revolutions are necessary for what they call total indemnity. 1. Revolution of indemnity. 2. Revolution of conscience. 3. Revolution of heart. Under the title of the lecture on the change of ownership 2, another Komaba lecturer explained about the liquidation of the original sin. The print is quite small on this slide, but if we zoom in on the words enclosed in the red dotted line of their lecture contents, it says the following. This lecturer explained that in order to liquidate your original sin, you must accomplish the 3 great revolutions completed together as total indemnity. 1. The change of ownership, revolution of indemnity. 2. The change of one's sense of value, revolution of conscience. 3. Repentance and forgiveness, revolution of heart. And then the lecturer explains about the central figure who should make this condition to liquidate your original sin. According to them, it is none other than your own self. The lecturer says, we have to do these things centered on the portion of responsibility. There are some aspects of the portion of responsibility that I cannot interfere with you, and this means you have to be proactive and active in doing things. And then the lecturer explains, saying that the offerings are required to liquidate your original sin. They call it as the change of ownership. The lecturer says, offerings are made for the change of ownership. Through the change of ownership, we must now return our hearts to God. And that kind of change is necessary. So, according to the Komaba Group, you have to offer your entire wealth or assets to the Komaba Group as an offering. In the book Foundation Day and Sunwa, it is stated as follows. The indemnity condition that needs to be established here is a condition of total indemnity to cleanse original sin. So according to the Komaba Group, the condition of total indemnity is for the cleansing of your original sin. Furthermore, the Komaba group lecturers explain as follows. For the change of lineage, 100%, one must completely change their character through the change of heart, 95%, through the external form of the change of ownership, 5%. And then the lecturer speaks about the period of indemnity to liquidate your original sin. They call this period as a 3-day ceremony or 3-day course. The lecturer continues saying, the period is 3 days, a 3-day period. I've also said 3.5, but the cleansing will happen during this period. Finally, in the book Foundation Day and Sunwa, you can find the following statement about the Sunwa ceremony. They say, the Sunwa ceremony does not mean a funeral ceremony that is performed after death, expiration of the physical body. This must be done while we are alive on earth. This means to die in the world of Satan, cut the relationship with Satan while still having a physical body on this earth, and be born again under God's love. This was truly for us to go through rebirth. According to the Komaba group, the Sunwa ceremony must be held while we are alive on earth. Moreover, the lecturers explain, He, True Father, said, those who die will live. Total indemnity is necessary, and we must be prepared to die. To be prepared to die, to completely sever your relationship with Satan, and to become one with God's love. This is what rebirth is. Moreover, the Komaba group uses the following biblical episodes of Ananias. The Bible recounts the following episode. But a certain man named Ananias, with Sapphira, his wife, sold possessions, and he kept back part of the proceeds. His wife also being aware of it, and brought a certain part and laid it at the apostles' feet. But Peter said, Ananias, why has Satan filled your heart to lie to the Holy Spirit and keep back part of the price of the land for yourself? Then Ananias, hearing these words, fell down and breathed his last. So great fear came upon all those who heard these things. Recently, some members left the Komaba group and came back to the Family Federation Japan. Then one of them gave us her anonymous testimony about their own experiences of 3-day ceremony, 3-day course. I'd like to share her testimony with you. It may help you to make clearer understanding or the image of what the 3-day ceremony means and what the change of ownership means in the Komaba group. Here's the anonymous testimony. 3.5 days are spent on phone calls and visits in order to restore money. Then you can partake in the ceremony. At the 3-day ceremony, most people do not know that it is splinter group that denies true mother. We are genuinely seeking God and the true parents, and were willing to die for them. After the phone call, we were told to return all ownership, past, present, and future, to God. According to their instruction, we borrowed money from loan sharks until there was no money left. After that, we had to offer up every last penny on our credit cards, insurance, etc. and all of our foreign currencies as well. So, if we go through the 3-day ceremony and the Sunwa ceremony, most people cannot come out of the Komaba group. Now, let me summarize the main points of the change of ownership that the Komaba group has described so far. This is a summary. The change of ownership is a change of blood lineage. The change of ownership is necessary as a method for the change of lineage. And they use a biblical episode of Ananias who died. So members were asked to offer their entire wealth or assets at the cost of their lives. In the book Foundation Day and Sunwa, the Komaba group says, the indemnity condition that needs to be established here is a condition of total indemnity to cleanse original sin. Unfortunately, these offerings will not go to heaven but to the Komaba group. Moreover, it has nothing to do with the liquidation of the original sin. Now, let's look at the view of redemption seen from the divine principle and Father's words. The divine principle states as follows: therefore, to uproot the original sin, which he, Jesus, could not remove through the crucifixion, and to complete the work of physical salvation, Jesus must come again on earth. Jesus, the Messiah, was not even able to redeem the original sin of the fallen humankind with his death on the cross. So there's no way that fallen humans can do it on their own. Father said, how to remove original sin? That is a fundamental problem. Fallen people by themselves cannot do it. Therefore, the Messiah is necessary. Moreover, the divine principle states as follows: the Messiah comes as the true parent of humanity because only he can remove the original sin by giving rebirth to humanity born of fallen parents. Now, let's look at the true meaning of the view of the changing lineage and change of ownership seen from the divine principle and Father's words. Father said, first, the lineage must be changed. Second, the right of ownership must be changed. Finally, the realm of heart must be changed. In the True Parents Proclamation website, it is explained as follows. True Parents said that we must first change our lineage through the holy wine ceremony and the marriage blessing, and then change ownership and change our heart. Next, let's look at the true meaning of the Sunwa ceremony while we are alive on earth, seen from the divine principle and Father's words. In the True Parents Proclamation website, it is explained as follows. What is the true meaning of the Sunwa ceremony which should be held while we are alive on earth? It suggests that we must become a person who will pass into the spirit world after completing our physical life on earth. To deny ourselves and abandon all ownership by calling it as 3-day ceremony without the holy wine ceremony or marriage blessing by true parents, as the Komaba group does not mean the Sunwa ceremony which should be held while we are alive on earth. 4. Change of lineage. The Komaba group's unprincipled view of how to change lineage. In the book Foundation Day and Sunwa, the Komaba group describes as follows. The change of ownership is necessary as a method for the change of lineage. According to the Komaba group, The change of ownership is a method for the change of lineage. However, true father has never ever made such a statement. Now let's verify the view of the changing lineage seen from the divine principle and true father's words. Father said, "The holy wine ceremony is a ritual of converting the lineage. The holy wine ceremony is a ceremony to change your lineage. The holy wine ceremony is a ceremony to change your lineage, and it thereby removes the original sin." This is the end of the part 1. Thank you very much.